Good morning, everybody. This is Walk the Dog, and it is Thursday, and I am Mortdog, and I got a bone to pick. This is going to be a different episode. Um, I did not bring any questions with me because I just want to talk about one thing, and we're going to see how long I can talk about it for. Because I'm grumpy. I'm grumpy and feeling helpless, and I don't know. So real quick, as always, just in case it's not 1,000% clear, if this video ever gets out here, anything I say in this video represents only me, Mort's opinion. This does not represent the opinion of my employers. And in fact, I don't know, they might disagree with some of the things I'm about to say. But yeah, I haven't really planned this out. But just have to get that out of the way, just in case it wasn't obvious. I only speak for me. I do not speak for my coworkers. Yeah. All right. So, for those who didn't know, if you didn't see this yesterday, Microsoft, one of the larger employers of video game developers, fired about 9,000 people and shut down a variety of studios. And full bias aside, I don't know a lot of people in the industry, especially at Nintendo, which was a small company. It's like I know some of the people I went to college with and writers, and that's kind of about it. Not a lot of, Nintendo was, like I said, we were like a 45-person company at NST. So, but one of my friends I went to college with, who I still talk to occasionally, he was one of the people let go after being with Microsoft for 18 years. So that's just one bias aside, just to make sure you know where I stand. And obviously I'm a game developer, so I have that bias. Okay, enough preamble. This industry is so screwed, man. It is so screwed, and it's screwed up for so many different reasons. That's the thing, like, I'm the kind of person that I would love to help fix these things. I'd love to talk about, like, oh, well, here's the one or two things you could do to fix the industry. But it is cooked on so many different angles that, like, it feels like it's beyond repair in terms of Western game development. And I don't know what to do about it. It's other than just like ignore it and do your own thing, which there are some companies doing now, but that doesn't help the bajillion thousand people that want to do this. Okay, so here's where I'm going to start. We already had that one talk last time where we talked about how the industry is all about making money, and that's still true. Okay, but the bigger problem is not many people know how to make a video game. It's like they like the idea of making a video game, but they don't grasp the execution, and they don't have the knowledge to actually make this video game. And it's funny because you can see this in like any 18-year-old kid's dreams, right? Where they're like, I want to grow up and I want to make an MMO and the world's best turn. It's like, okay, chill. It's fun to dream big, but that's not what it actually takes to make a video game, right? Making a video game takes a good understanding of things like game mechanics and presentation and things like that. And so many projects, it's like, how did it even get there? Oh, that's a lot of deer. Like you look at, I don't know, I'll pick on a game like Concord, right? And it's like, how did we get this far in a development process where we looked at this project and we went, yes, this is a successful. Ooh, that's a baby deer. Sorry, real quick distraction. There they go. Cute. How did we get so far where we looked at this project? Because Concord was in development like 7 years. There's so many games nowadays that are these like 7-year projects. And you just have to ask yourself, how did you get to this point where you're like 3 or 4 years down the road and you're looking at this going, yep, this is the money. We should definitely keep finishing this. Okay. And there's so much blame to go around on like every different side. Okay. Because one of the things that commonly happens in these situations is everyone's like, because it's just how we work and it's how our brains are operated. It's like, it's all the leader's fault. It's the leaders. The leaders are 1000% responsible. And don't get me wrong, they are definitely somewhat responsible, right? I've worked on 2 projects that I can think of in my career that went, a year or longer, give or take, that ended up being canceled, okay? But in both of those cases, to me at least, in about 9 months, you can tell, is this game going to be good or not, right? Like, games don't all of a sudden, you're not 3 years into development and the game's mediocre. And then all of a sudden 5 years into development, it's like, nope, now it's good. We figured it out. Like, that is definitely not how games work, right? One of the things they teach you at Nintendo is like, your game should be fun with blocks. There's a really good article, it's really old now, but before Splatoon came out, where they were making the game and they called them tofu blocks. And it was just tofu blocks, but they were having fun. And then they added everything on top of it. And man, the number of people who still do not get that concept is so rough. And so you've got these leaders who are like pushing the game for whatever sake. Is it their ego? Is it just their lack of knowledge? Like, the whole thing about like fake it till you make it. It's like, how many leaders out there just like do not understand what it takes to make a game? So like, I don't know, man, I just like threw 30 artists at it and hope it became good. Or I'm going to throw more engineers at it. Or, oh, God forbid that, like, what'll make our game good? If the tech is really pretty, if the environments are very gorgeous, that'll make our game fun. Oh my God, no. And so like, I don't know how it happened. Because like, look, we obviously have like the CEOs, right? There's the CEOs that like run their companies and they're there to make a business. That's true, right? And clearly the CEOs don't know how to make games generally. Most of them would probably admit that though, at least, right? Like, that's not their job. Their job is to run the business that's making games. The people I have problem with are like the game directors and, the people or the producers or whatever you want to call them, like the people who are there driving these artists and engineers and designers towards a goal that makes absolutely no sense, right? And again, I'm just going to use Concord as this example where it's like, anyone who is at the leadership level of that going, yes, guys, this Overwatch clone that has nothing to really differentiate it, that's where we should be headed. Yep, that's the juice, right? And there's so many examples of this. It's like all these different canceled projects. What they canceled? They canceled like Perfect Dark and like ZeniMax's MMO. And it's like, if these games were truly the juice and they were really exciting, like you would be able to see that, right? You'd be able to see that pretty easily within the first year or two and go, yeah, we got to keep doing this, right? Credit where credit was due. At Nintendo, if you started a project and it was like 3 months in and you're looking at this going, this isn't that fun, you throw it away. One of the canceled projects I worked on at Riot, like I said, we were working on it for about 9-10 months. And you looked at it and you're like, it would be okay at best, and so you kill it. No sunk cost fallacy, no nothing like that. But these 7-year games that are like, how do we keep running into these like 7-year games? How do companies keep paying the bills like this? Do you guys just lack the people that can look at a game and go, yes, this is good, or no, this is bad? It's wild to me. I just don't get it. I don't get the ego. I don't get the arrogance that these leaders have. But okay, so let's do the online thing, right? Where we blame all the leaders. It's the leaders' fault. No, it's not just the leaders' fault. Because the other thing is, and I don't know when it happened, and I can't relate to it, but it's also someone on the workers, right? If you're, I don't know, a random artist, and you're making $100,000 a year, as an artist on this company, working on this game. It's been in development for 5 years. And you're like, what have I accomplished in the last 3 months? You're like, well, I made the art in this one level. And you have to look at that at scale and you're like, is that how you finish a video game? If you find yourself in the position where you can look at the work you've done in the last 3 months and it didn't meaningfully move the project forward, like, you have some self-responsibility as well to recognize and call out, like, hey, this project isn't going anywhere. What's going on, right? Again, the canceled Riot project I worked on, it was literally me who went up to my superiors, and I was the lead designer, but anyone on the team could have done this and just been like, guys, look where we were 3 months ago, look where we are today. We're not making progress. This is not moving at the speed we need it to. And we were moving relatively fast, but it just wasn't the speed that was relative to our goal at the time, you know. Another example here is like Project Hammer. Actually, that's probably a better example here. Project Hammer at Nintendo. God, the game's 20 years old now. I was still an intern. I hadn't even been hired full time when we were working on Project Hammer. I was in charge of making like level 2 and level 3. And it's like, again, you look at the level and then you look at the level 2 months from now and it's like, the robots kind of behaved a little better. That's it. At this rate, we'll finish this game in, 8 years, which is probably not good when you're making a Wii game. The systems aren't, that was back when game developments were only supposed to be like 2 or 3 years. And so you have a responsibility to sort of recognize that fact and bring it up and be like, hey guys, what's going on? Why can't we finish a game? Or, are you being as efficient as you can be? Right? Because like, there's a level of like comfort that's happened in this industry as well, where it's like, I got this cushy tech job and I was told to do in this sprint, I was told to do exactly this one frame of art, and I'll work on it. And again, I'm not picking on an artist in particular or anything, but it is just like, there was something about making games in the past where it was like 10 to 50 people getting together, working their butts off to make a game and putting it out there and going like, wow, this is really, really good. Or, that's the other thing too. The expectations of what a game is supposed to be is, right? Because let's say back in like, I don't know, the GameCube era, it was like you could make a game and sell 500,000 copies and be like, nice, we did it, right? Nintendo's goal was always like, if you sell 1 million copies, good job. Great. Now, because everything has to be these billion-dollar investments or these long-term, like, because the budgets get so bloated, because we build these teams up to be 100 people, 200 people, 500 people, and it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. That you agree to make a game that's going to take 200 people or 500 people, like the math just ain't mathing. There's a basic level of math here that's sort of like, okay, we're going to make this, I'm going to make up a fake game here, but we're going to make this turn-based RPG. And this turn-based RPG, we're going to have a team of 100 people that are all making $100,000 a year. So, what is that? 100,000 a year. So it's 100 million a year. 100 million a year. It's going to take us 5 years to make this thing. That's 500 million. Did I get my math wrong? No. 50 million. Make sure I do my math right. It's early. Leave me alone. 100 employees, 100,000. No, that's right. 100 million. Because 10 employees would be a million. No, sorry, 10 million. 50 million. Anyway, math. 50 million, right? So we spend 50 million plus marketing, whatever. The point is the budget gets up to be like 100 million, right? Whatever. How many copies do you have to sell to even just like make a profit, right? You're putting yourself in a position where you have to sell so many copies, which just doesn't happen for most games, let alone unless you're the world's best game. Obviously there are exceptions if you're a breakout hit, but like one of the things I enjoyed about NSC is that, yes, our goal was to sell 1 million copies, but the total budget of any game we made was like 4 million or 5 million because we were a small company and we would only take 2 years at most. So even if you sold 100,000 copies, it was like, well, at least we did okay and we didn't destroy our bankroll, right? We could just live. And again, credit where credit's due. I think that's one of the things Nintendo does right, is it's like they don't let these budgets balloon out insanely. But again, anyone on the team can also recognize this fact, right? If you're sitting there and your team is constantly hiring and constantly producing, and you're like, but our game isn't going to ship for another 5 years. Like, why aren't you ringing the bell? Why aren't you screaming from the top of the mountaintops? And then it's like, what? Surprise. I can't believe it. I don't know. I look at stuff like Expedition 33 and I'm like, that's closer to where we need to be, right? It's like, yeah, they took 5 or 6 years on that thing, but they kept that budget relatively small. And they did some outsourcing and they did some stuff like that. And small teams, the other thing too is you will improve yourself as a developer on a small team because you'll find that you have to do so many different things. They call it wearing many hats, right? Like one of the things that blew my mind coming to Riot was the concept of a UX designer. It was like, there's a designer who just does UX. That's fascinating because at Nintendo is just like, I don't know, one of the artists would do it or one of the designers would do it. You make it. And could it have been better in a UX designer's hand? Yeah, probably. But is that really the best use of, again, I'm not picking on UX. It's just the industry has not figured out how to make, that's the short of it. The industry has not figured out how to make games efficiently and quickly with good direction. And this seems to be do they just not recognize it? Is there not these CEOs that are making tons of money? Do they just sit in a room going, yep, our guys are the best? What's going on? Who, the whole, the emperor not wearing any clothes thing. That's what it feels like to me. It's just does nobody else see the fact that nobody in the entire Western games industry really seems to know how to make games anymore? What happened? What happened? I just don't get it. And again, there's exceptions, right? If you look at the industry as a whole, there's going to be exceptions, right? Is GTA 6 allowed to take 10 years to make? Yeah, probably, because they made a gajillion dollars from GTA 5. And they can afford it. And that's okay. If you can afford it, that's fine. There's a car. But the industry as a whole, there's just too many of these. There's too many companies that just can't seem to put it together, don't have good direction. It's like the blind leading the blind, and it's insane. And I like I said, I wish I had some way to help point this out, right? I want to go to people and be like, do you guys need someone to look at your game once it's 9 months in development and go, yeah, that's definitely, because is that what it is? Is it just the people who green light these projects? They just get lied to and convinced that, oh yeah, this is going to change the industry. And because they don't know anything about the industry, they're like, yeah, sounds good to me. Who is signing these 5-year, 7-year checks for projects to just sit there and struggle forever? I don't get it. Right? What? There are, man, I'm trying to tread a line here because, again, I'm still in the industry, but it's one of the things I get grumpy about because, for better or worse, my specialty, my superpower, as you say, is the ability to look at a game, see where it's at, and kind of go, okay, here's what needs to be done to finish it. Here's how long it'll take. Here are sort of the obvious paths you can take to get there. Don't overthink this. Keep it simple and get it out the door. And I just don't know what it is. Is it because so many people are trained by business practices as opposed to game development practices? Is it shitty schooling? Is it just bad? I just do not know. Right? Like, is it bad tastemakers? Is it, because one of the things that happens too is like the internet goes to war with game developers a lot of the times, right? It's like the people, take your Asmongold's or whatever, right? It's like these game developers don't know what they're talking about because they don't play games as much as we do, which is true. It's 100% true. Game developers don't play games as much as gamers because gamers are gamers and game developers are game developers. Like, this is just a fact, right? Their skill sets are different, but there's this like inability to learn from each other that also drives me nuts, right? It's like, I don't know what happened that these two decided to be at war with each other when the reality is they both serve each other, right? It's like, and maybe it's because of burnout from like that Rockstar era where like there was a time where game developers were treated sort of as like kings, right? The early Blizzard era or your Kojimas, things like that, where it's just like, oh my God, they get it. But then for whatever reason, a group of game developers decided to like, no, we hate our audience. We hate gamers. And it's like, what? What are you doing? Right? Like, you need to learn from the gamers what they want because you're making a product for them, but also you know more than them and you can teach them, right? Like, you can help them understand like, hey, the reason we don't balloon the budget insanely or the reason we don't implement this type of system is because we've tested it and it feels bad, right? Like, the two sides can help each other, but instead, in this current culture of Twitter and everything, where everyone just wants to yell at each other and be angry at each other or make the most outrageous claims that have nothing to do with the video game, like, and that's part of it, right? We have game devs that have lost sight of making the game good. I've said it 100 times, right? Like, my job is make the video game good. That's it. If the video game isn't good, I'm not doing my job. And, there are, the best way I can phrase this safely is, there are people that value their craft more than the game. And what I mean by that is, I want you to imagine an artist who's working on a video game, and their goal isn't to make the video game good, it's to make their art good, right? And that's the wrong goal, and you will make the wrong decisions if that's your goal. And there are a lot of developers in the industry, or maybe not anymore, that don't know this. They've lost sight of this, and then they'll blame leadership. It's leadership's fault that all I did was think about the art, not the game. Like, part of being a game developer is you have to think about the game. And again, like, that was something that was beaten into my head at Nintendo. It's like, I don't care how good your level is. What I care is how good the level is in context of the rest of the game. Does it belong in stage 1-4? Is it teaching the proper journey? That's all that matters. If you made the coolest level but doesn't belong in there, then it's not a good level. Right? Like, so the blame is not entirely on leadership as well. It's also the developers who haven't realized what their job is. Their job is to make game good as efficiently as possible. That's it, right? And you can see that, like, and again, I'm using art as an example only because it's not that I have anything against artists. Actually, there's a lot of really good artists that I'm thankful to work for. I'm using it because it is the clearest example to understand. Everyone can understand art. So art has the benefit there. But an example here would be like an artist who, instead of making 50 things quickly at like a B+ priority, or B+, let's call it just B+ artwork, because that's all you need for this section of the game. will spend twice as long to only make 10 pieces of art at an A level. And it's like, well, sure, but if you're spending, 10x the time, is that worth the chunk of change? Is that making the game better by that factor because you've made that art just a little bit better? And the answer is usually no. The answer is usually no, right? Because again, it's not just make game good, it's make game good efficiently, right? Even some of the best, most beautiful games out there. I'm picking on art too much. Again, I'm only picking on it because it's easy to understand, right? Trying to pick on design theory is just harder for people to grasp. But the same is true of design, right? It's like your overly complex system for upgrading weapons to show how clever you were as a designer is not a good design when you can accomplish the same thing using a known good and it'll be just as good. And you can get it done in a tenth the time. So, yeah, there's, like I said, there's plenty of blame to go around here. And I'm just pulling out my hair going, how do we all not see this? How do we all not see that in order to make a game, you got to, have a good direction, which is true, have a very good direction. Make sure the right people who know the industry are aligned on that direction or willing to take that risk or whatever. And then frequently checking in to be like, are we on track? Are we doing the right thing? Because if not, we've gone too far. Maybe we shouldn't have ballooned up this project to insane degrees. Maybe we shouldn't, because that's the thing. If 9,000 developers were fired at Microsoft, it's sort of like, what did they have to show for it? What was coming out? We need to go back to the world where it was like, okay to ship something that took 3 years to make, cost 20 to 30 million to make. And if it sells 1 million copies, good. Because it creates a library, it creates an affinity. But I guess that's the other problem too. And that's another angle to this is that the reason you can't do that as much anymore is because of all the shovelware you're competing with, right? There's the people out there that will fill the eShop with random shovelware that took them 3 months to make that is so just hilariously bad. But to the consumer, they can't tell the difference, right? It's like, is this random 3-month-old shovelware game for $5 as good as Balatro? I don't know, because I'm an uninformed consumer. And so, like I said, I feel relatively helpless because much like anything in this world today, you can't convince people of something that they're wrong about if they don't want to be convinced they're wrong. No game director out there wants to hear that they don't know what they're talking about when it comes to game direction, or that they've gone too far down the wrong path for 4 years. It's very hard to accept that level of responsibility and self-ownership when it's much easier to just keep going down the path until you're 6 or 7 years deep and then go, oops, and then layoffs happen. And it's all the executives' faults because the layoffs happened. It's like, well, no, it's a lot of people's fault. It's a lot of people's fault. So, I don't know. I got lucky that I got to work on games that go out the door. Not all the games I worked on were successful. Like I said, some of the last ones we made only sold 80 to 100,000 copies. So they weren't doing that great. But we were efficient about it, and so it never shut the company down. So, oh look, more cars. So many cars this morning. Yeah, so anyway. And here's the thing, like I said, some of you are going to be like, is he talking about Riot? It's like, no, I'm not. I'm not talking about Riot. I'm talking about the industry as a whole. Because something I do is I pay attention to the industry and I look at things, and over the 20 years, I've learned what it takes to ship a game efficiently. And I look at these games and I'm sort of like, what was your plan here? Right? One of the most famous examples to me is, some of you might not remember this now because I think it's almost 10 years old at this point. But there was that Beyond Good and Evil sequel that they showed off at a game show. And all they showed off was a cinematic cutscene, right? Like that's all they showed, a cinematic cutscene. And the level of like incompetence that takes to go, you know what? We have this game in development and we're not going to show any of the gameplay. We're not going to show anything about it. We're just going to hype people up with a couple $1 million cinematic we made. That's the strategy. And some people to this day still think that's the strategy. There are people out there that for some reason think that it's time to do a game show. It's time to show off our cinematic trailer for a game that will drive up business. Like, again, is it the business people? Is it the publishing people? Because it's like, well, all we know is how to publish, so let's make a cool publishing asset. Is that what it is? Because at the end of the day, if the game's not good, the game's not good. Like, geez Louise. The newest trend of this, by the way, is like the influencer playtests or the influencer events that also are just like, man, if game is good. Make it efficiently, make it good. Yeah. So anyway, I've ranted enough and it was probably incoherent and all over the place, but I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated that we've essentially got an industry full of people that are like, it feels like the blind leading the blind to some extent some days. And it's just like, and then people are out of a job because the blind leading the blind ran off a cliff and somehow it's all screwed, man. So, and like I said, I feel powerless because what I want to do is I want to go around and like help people understand how to make games good. But again, you can't. And I'm sure someone out there is going to be like, this guy's so arrogant. He thinks he knows how to make games. And like I said, if there's one thing I know in life, that's all I know. Like, I don't know politics. I'm not that smart. I'm not that educated. But there's one thing I've been doing for 20 years now straight. And it's thinking about and how to make games. So, yeah, I don't know. Just frustrated. Anyway, that's it for Walk the Dog today. I'm sure I could have done this better and neater if I thought about it, but incoherent rambling today. There you go. It's Thursday. My break's almost over. I was lazy as heck yesterday. That's okay. I'll try to be better today. All right, that's going to do it for me. Hope everyone at least lands on their feet. Find some way to pay the bills. Because, man, the job market in general is getting pretty screwed. And I worry for my daughter. So, all right, that's going to do it for me. Until next time, take it easy.